10 of the world's most dangerous stunts. Above the falls. Thousands from Canada and the United States were at the Niagara Falls on June 15, 2012 to witness one of the coolest stunts ever performed. American stuntman Nik Wallenda became the first person to ever walk across the fall's greatest extent while battling high winds and the ever-present spraying water. In only 25 short minutes, Wallenda calmly traversed the 1,800-foot gap, crossing from Canada to the US in the process. The man held a 40-foot pole that was attached to his neck by a brace and also wore a safety harness connected to the cable. While quite an accomplishment, it was one that has been done to some degree in the past. French acrobat Charles Bondlin became the first person to traverse a section of the falls in 1859. American daredevil James Hardy made several crossings of the gorge in the late 19th century, but none were as close to the waterfall as this most recent attempt. Erik in the sky with balloons. Erik Ronner has always been a dreamer before becoming a popular action sports star on MTV's Nitro Circus. His love of excitement fueled some of his greatest stunts, and though he was physically taken from the earth much too soon, he lived far more than his 39 years would indicate and made a lasting impact on thousands. One of his most memorable stunts took place in December 2014. With the help of a bunch of his friends and around 50 tanks of helium, Ronner attached 90 balloons to a lawn chair and went up. In a scene reminiscent from Pixar, Ronner peacefully ascended towards the clouds, seemingly enjoying every second. During the trip, he reached a height of 8,000 feet before shooting the balloons with a shotgun, an act not at all reminiscent of Up. This allowed him to parachute back down to the safety of the farmland below. Holeinone. In 2014, base jumper Yuli Emanuele leapt off a Swiss mountain equipped with a wingsuit. Brave and extraordinary, this in itself is nothing new. It's what he did while in the air that earned the pilot a spot on this video. While gliding down the slope of the hill, Emanuele shot directly through a hole in a rock that was no more than 3 meters wide. While it's hard to attach an official record to the act, many consider it to be one of the most technically challenging and dangerous base jumps ever recorded. The deepest man on Earth. After years of preparation and despite inclement weather conditions, Herbert Nitsch plunged further into the ocean than anyone prior, becoming literally, not figuratively, the deepest man on the planet. Extraordinary as the record-breaking dive was, it almost cost Nitsch his life. On June 6, 2012, the decorated diver went 830 feet below the sea, just outside of Santorini, Greece. The descending went just fine, but on the way back up, Nitsch lost consciousness due to narcosis and experienced serious decompression sickness, which is the equivalent of having several brain strokes. It took the man months of rehabilitation just to learn how to walk, talk, and move around again. Biking with Fred. Fred Rumpelberg has been a pro cyclist since 1971 and still holds the license, making him the oldest active pro cyclist. While this in itself is a great accomplishment, it isn't what the talented biker is best known for. The Bonneville Salt Flats reach for miles across northwestern Utah and make for fantastic imagery. Rumpelberg wasn't concerned about taking pictures, however, when he paid the flats a visit in October of 1995. He was there for the other purpose that the flats are often utilized for: setting speed records. While cycling behind a motor dragster, Fred flew across the salty ground, reaching speeds of 167.044 miles per hour, setting the cycling mark for absolute speed. Who am I? Jackie Chan is well known for doing his own stunts. His fighting skills combined with his goofy, one-of-a-kind character have made him a celebrity and one of the most famous personalities in the world. In 1998, he starred, co-wrote, and directed Who Am I?, perhaps one of his most excellent films. While trying to answer the titular question and eluding mysterious bad guys, Chan performs a litany of difficult stunts, the most of which has to be sliding down a 21-story skyscraper. Chan did so without the help of the safety harness. As the movie can attest to, he even managed to get on his feet and run a few steps down the building. Stratos Jump. Redbull, along with longtime collaborator and professional skydiver Felix Baumgartner, got together in 2012 to create one of the greatest stunts and marketing campaigns in recent memory. With millions watching live, Baumgartner made a free fall jump 24 miles above the Earth. He was hurtling towards the ground unchecked for nearly 4.5 minutes before finally pulling the ripcord to release his parachute. By the time he landed safely on New Mexican soil, the man had set 5 Guinness World Records, including becoming the first human being to break the sound barrier without engine power. The stunt went well in more ways that could be seen on that day. In a year after Baumgartner's historic leap, Redbull sales increased a staggering 13% worldwide and 17% in the United States. Snake River Canyon Jump. Evel Knievel became a living legend in the 1970s thanks to his bevy of ridiculous, death-defying stunts that were often nationally televised. He pulled off some incredible feats like jumping over 50 smashed cars stacked in a pile at the Los Angeles Coliseum in 1973, and jumping over a line of 9 cars and a van at Madison Square Garden in 1971. He added to his performances with his outlandish costumes and bravado. In 1974, he would attempt one of his most dangerous stunts and would be lucky to live to tell the tale. So that no one could stop him, the daredevil purchased land on both sides of the Snake River Canyon in Idaho. Finally, on September 8th, strapped to a custom-built rocket cycle, Knievel attempted to launch himself across a mile-wide river. His parachute deployed too early though, and the vehicle, along with the man inside, fell to the canyon floor 500 feet below. Remarkably, he escaped with nothing more than a broken nose and would go back to doing ridiculous, death-defying stunts less than a year later. In September 2016, with much less national attention, stuntman Eddie Braun completed what Knievel couldn't, making the jump look easy in the process. Ice cold. Frozen lakes can be incredibly dangerous and unpredictable. They can also be totally awesome and the site of some reckless, incredible stunts. Arthur and his knights used one to take advantage to ward off an army approaching Saxons in the 2004 movie King Arthur. A man in Finland recently created an amazing ice carousel on a frozen lake using just a chainsaw. Brave souls all around the world, like this woman, recklessly jump into frozen lake holes all the time, either during polar bear plunges that are held throughout North America and Europe to celebrate the new year, or just to wake themselves up for the day. Me? I'll take some coffee. The artist crime of the century. Born in Nemours, France, Philippe Petit was always a talented individual who loved displaying his ability for the masses. He performed magic tricks and learned how to juggle at a young age. By the time he was a teenager, Petit had discovered his one true passion, the tightrope. In the 60s, construction began on the World Trade Center in New York City, providing the man with a perfect platform to show off his skills. He prepared by traveling between the towers of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris and the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia. Finally, in 1974, Petit made his way west to perform his grandest act yet. After months of sneaky preparation that involved an incredible amount of disguises, the Frenchman was ready. After shooting a line across the buildings with a bow and arrow, Petit at a little after 7 in the morning and no one watching stepped out onto the wire, with nothing but a rope and 1,350 feet of air between him and the ground. For nearly an hour, a period of time that has become famous and iconic all over the world, Petit crossed to and from the buildings, dancing better than many of the gathering crowd below could manage with sufficiently stable grounding. Eventually, he descended from his epic perch and gave himself up to the waiting authorities, but not before creating a scene that will never again be duplicated.